Hello and welcome to our podcast, Conversation with Elders, where I get to speak to elders in our communities. And those are those people who hold information, knowledges that they draw from wisdom traditions, from indigenous knowledges. And they are here to give us some guidance around how we can think about issues that confound us, issues that we are grappling with, and really to assist us to do better at this human project so that we can open up to a purpose much higher than ourselves, and one that serves not only ourselves, humanity, but all beings that inhabit this planet. And on this episode, I'm very pleased to welcome a dear friend of mine, a sister actually, Nina Callaghan. Nina, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you, and thank you to Euphoria Partners as well.
Yes.
This is a lovely platform.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I'm going to ask you to say a few words about yourself, just an introduction of who you are. But before we do that, I'd like for us to just take a moment to close our eyes and breathe deeply and land in the space that is supporting all of us. Taking a deep breath in. And inhale. Coming to a still point within. And one more time, coming deep in contact with that space within that holds us. Thank you. And you can open your eyes.
Thank you.
All right, Nina, would you like to share a few words about who you are before we delve into our conversation? And I know that, just to say very quickly, that the topic, even though we are going to start on embracing death, thinking about death, thinking about how we prepare for death whilst we are still alive. And from that conversation, we are going to see where we get to. But Nina, a few words about yourself, please.
Okay. So my name's Nina Callaghan. I'm 44 years old. I'm a mom and a partner, and my day job is being a researcher. And that's very recent and very new and very exciting. I work at the Center for Complex Systems in Transition. Nice, sexy title for a place.
Very sexy.
That's at Stellenbosch University, and what the center does is inquires into transitions. What are the kinds of transitions underway in our world? Are they transitions towards more just outcomes? Are they transitions that are going to dismantle our lives and reassemble them in ways that are beneficial for everyone? And I really enjoy that inquiry. It excites me, it scares the shit out of me. And it's given me a real sense of urgency, coupled with an appreciation for how complex things are. So I enjoy turning those things over as part of my everyday and trying to stretch my brain around complexity thinking and sustainability thinking.
Sure, beautiful. Beautiful, nice and layered and juicy, and I can't wait to get into our conversation so that we can delve into all those layers, through all those layers. And you speak about transitions, that your inquiries around transitions, and I know that right now at a very personal level you are grappling with peri-transitions, if I can say that. Could you speak a little bit about that, please?
Okay, so my beloved and I, Sarah, we both have parents who have dementia and late stage dementia. My dad is 73 and he's in a facility He's in a dementia facility where he receives care because we're unable to care for him. He's not mobile, he's in a wheelchair, he wears incontinence wear, he's non-verbal. And the same goes for Sarah's mom, who's 84 very soon, and is in the same stage of dementia. So there are two very vulnerable people in our lives that require a lot of care, and that that are very vulnerable during this time of COVID-19 as well. Yeah. My dad being in a facility, they went into lockdown before the national lockdown, understanding that these people are the most vulnerable. So we've been living with a lot of loss in our life for a while, watching the progression of dementia and watching how our loved ones slip away from us through their loss of faculty and through the loss of traditional engagement in life. And that's a lot to deal with. It's like they're here and they're not here, and you're not sure how much of them is here. And there's now an acute sense of anticipatory grief. Understanding that they are very vulnerable during this time, and understanding where South Africa is in the curve of the pandemic. We know that the worst could still come. And where does that leave our elders? And are we prepared? Like, we've been preparing for death for a long time. We've been talking about, should they fall ill, do we take them to hospital? We've decided hypothetically on non-resuscitation, low interventions, pain management. And now with COVID, we ask ourselves, are we standing by those same things if they were to become infected? Because we know that suffering from pneumonia is a really terrible and grueling end. It's, from what I hear, it's like you're drowning in your own fluid. So that's a specter that we've turned over in our heads to actually picture it and go, how ready are we for their deaths, should it come that way? And in some respects, before lockdown, when you're in your day-to-day buzzing about in traffic jams, navigating work, kids, school, shopping, cooking, homework, and then you have to fit in time for the parents, for the elderly parents. And sometimes that burden of care is so much. Yeah. And you go, whew, when is this time coming? It's dragging. It's, you anticipate it, but you sometimes just want it to come now because it's so much. Yes. And now that the possibility is here, it's like COVID presents an opportunity almost, like there's a different window that opens for exit potentially. Like, how do we think about that? And then we get all nervous and we go, no, wait, we're not ready. And so I think that, it really, it heightened our sense of anticipatory grief. It heightened our sense of being prepared for it, in our unpreparedness. Yes. To let the children in on those conversations too, and other loved ones as well, around what could be coming. Yeah. So you're not holding this on your own. You're not holding your own anticipatory grief. You're not holding even the image of
what the passing could look like.
Yeah.
And having been hospitalized for pneumonia last year, and that sense of not being able to breathe is like nothing. It's absolutely, it is exquisitely painful, and even more than one can ever imagine. So I relate to your fear, and I relate to the plea for, if there's to be any transition, well, since there is to be some transition, let it not be through suffering, let it be
Yes.
through ease, let it be as painful as possible, and let us be equal to the grieving period so that we can transition. I mean, what you're speaking of, it sounds like going through a rite of passage of sorts, but waiting at the doorway before you can step over the threshold, because the event is imminent, but it's not happening, and that must be really painful. And it's
yeah, I think it's I think what the pandemic has done is made us all think about our mortality, you know, and there's some of us who are in great denial that we will die. And, you know, our whole culture is orientated towards prolonging life. From kind of chronic medications to the industry around medical insurance, to the kinds of technologies we make breakthroughs around to cure diseases and prolong life, whether we're old, middle-aged, or young, or just born. And I think we have this great denial about death being part of our natural cycle. But I also think that death is also about being a political subject.
Yeah. I mean, when you were talking now and speaking about citing the various means that we use to prolong life, a thought went to my mind around, but who it's that for whoever can afford to, you know, there's a cost to the prolonging of life. It doesn't come free, and it almost feels as if, there's some of us who can be oblivious to our own mortality, but for others, death is something that is very present, either from hunger, from poverty, not being able to feed themselves, not being able to home themselves, not being able to, you know, a whole lot of different ways that there's a whole section of society across the world, communities across the world, that, you know, for whom death is a prevalent companion. The promise of death is there for all of us, but the awareness to it is not something that all of us are open to.
I think also what's been interesting in this time, and what's been important in this time of kind of incrementally losing our parents, is that you can set milestones and you can see the end of a chapter or the end of a way of being. You know, we can create rituals around it. We can mark them with, you know, our being together. You know, you absorb it, you create little rituals around it, you offer prayers, and it's an awareness of having death as a companion in a way that is gentle and that is enriching, you know. And I think that when you have the presence of death as a brutality, as a threat, as a pain in your life, in your material life, I think that's really difficult. And I think that in COVID-19, who is most likely to die if the pandemic were just to have its run, burn itself through a community? Who would die would be our most economically and socially vulnerable, especially on the African continent and certainly in South Africa.
Yeah. There's absolutely a political, as you said earlier on, there's a political reality that that we don't think about it all that much. Even something as simple as being able to self-isolate. It's a privilege, in fact, to be able to self-isolate, and we can see that when we watch the news and we see people who live in informal settlements where homes are overcrowded and there's no space to be locked in. And exactly. So, there's all sorts of complexities and all sorts of layers that remind us that nothing is as simple as it seems. And I wonder if you have some words that you can share with us around, how do we give care? I heard you earlier on speak about giving care and being able to prepare, through rituals of sorts, even in the anticipation of a bigger crisis than we are in right now.
I think for me, on a personal level with my dad, so my dad's in a facility and I haven't seen him since the 16th of March. And often when you are engaged in care, there's a lot of fussing. There's a lot of your ego. There's a lot of your control stuff. There's a lot of your own noise in that caring operation, and now that that's not possible, now that I can't see him, now that I can't fuss, now that I can't, check if he ate all his meals and how many times a day he drank water and whatever. What do I do? And what has been really illuminating and hard is to trust love. Is to trust this connection in the distance, in this distance, is to trust our connection. I can't call him, he can't talk to me, and if he hears my voice, it's disembodied, it's on somebody's very bad phone. It stresses him out, so that's not an option. So I send him love through the ether as my way of being with him. I sit quietly and I bring his full sense of him to my awareness, and I send him love. And when you're fussing so much, you don't often take in the whole person. You're taking in the bits of operations. You're feeling on top of shit. And now when you're not on top of shit, you have an opportunity to maybe embrace that person more in a way. And it's also, I had an early loss in my life. My brother died, and when he died, I was 21. I couldn't get over that we had, or it was difficult to be completely, I think, individuated is the word, from each other, that everyone's like got their path, got their journey, COVID, no COVID, it goes on. And it's about trusting that too, in when I say trusting love, I don't just mean the love between my dad and I, but the love we are in, you know, trusting that. Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
been that's been very humbling.
Yeah. Yeah. That is such a beautiful gift you've just given all of us. It is a big reminder that there is an intelligence, a wisdom that governs whatever is going on. And if we show up, I love the image of you holding the fullness of your dad in your being, in your visceral being, not just in your mind, not just in your heart, but in the wholeness of who you are, and energetically transmitting love and transmitting, that holding together. I think that is available to all of us.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, I'm wondering how we can take this and bring it beyond beyond our our interpersonal experiences, but even as a collective, as a nation, as a as a planet going through this. How in your words, not how, but in your words, what do you see? We're going through a transition, and it's not an easy transition. Just with the words trusting love, a few words that you can add, that you can throw in.
Well, I think there's a big, for me, there's a big conflict in when I move it out of the interpersonal space into the bigger space. For me, then it's just like this barrage of noise that hits my best intention of trust. And the conflict is that we have accepted gross injustice as normal. And we have perpetuated that system and that status quo in so many ways, and so if I were to extend myself, my intention for embracing love to everyone and to hold the fullness of who they are, I also have to hold the fullness of my complicity in our unjust system of things. I can't be selective about, I'm going to invoke my spiritual Nina person and send love and light out to, the world. And I think there's a bigger picture, there's a bigger fullness to participating than just a good intention. I think it needs to come with a real sense of responsibility as well, and I think that sense of responsibility right now during this pandemic is that the pandemic has given us an opportunity to see the things that activists are always going on about. It's clear as day, if day is ever clear. You know what I mean? It's clear to see what is broken. It's clear to see that this is unsustainable. It's clear to see the weaknesses, and we need to understand how we participate in that, how we hold it up, how we accept that as truth. And so for me, if I were to extend my best love or my best intention for love, it would be to embrace all of that conflict as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Or else it wouldn't be love. It would be something else. But then maybe it can be used, love as a powerful transmuter of all the ills that we have allowed to be perpetuated through our complicity, through our participation, through our silence, through our privilege, and all of those. And constantly coming back to love. I love that. Sure. Nina, we have to finish. My gosh, I feel like we've just started.
Really? Oh. Is that 5 minutes? Oh, it's 20. Okay.
So, but I wondered if there's a particular, if there are any words of, I don't know, of care, of hope, of what is it that we are failing to see that perhaps you see. I mean, you won't know what it is that we see, but what has landed for you that's new that we can all benefit from, maybe?
I think for me, just once again, I'm reminded that some of our biggest challenges are political, and the solutions are also going to be political. And if we've never taken a stand for something, we are asked to do that now. You know, if there's so much talk of the pandemic offering a crossroads, you know, if that's what crisis is, then then there is a crossroad, and then you have to make a choice to do something differently. And I don't think we should see that choice as an apolitical act. I think we should try and see it in its greater fullness. Because, yeah, our economic systems, our social systems, our systems of governance has brought us to this point, you know, how we farm food, how we interact with the living systems of our earth has brought us here.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't a clap from, well, according to how I understand it, this isn't like a clap from Gaia, you know, like we kind of clapped ourselves, you know. Gaia's just going, yo, people, sup, yeah? This is a mess, you know, and she will calibrate according to what is best for life, I believe. But we now need to act in the best interests for what we think life should be and can be. And so for me, that's a political act, and it's something that we need to be more aware of as we navigate the crisis, as we emerge from this. But I think that the pandemic will be with us for a long time. I think the virus is going to be folded into our social, all isms of life from now on. So yeah, how we do things differently must be very conscious.
Yes. Well, and this is exactly what this podcast is about reminding us to be aware of what we are not aware of, and to open our eyes so that the life that we lead is one that is completely conscious, so that the choices that we make are the ones that serve all life, and perhaps also dismantle all the systems that have brought us to where we are, so that we don't take them forward into a future that we want. Nina, thank you so much for your time and for your wisdom and for your gentleness, and for your open-heartedness. I see that. Thank you.
Thank you, Makgathi.
It's a pleasure. And please join us next time when I speak to Simon Weitzman. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.